A lot of women believe attraction is about saying the right thing, but high-value women understand something deeper. It's not what you say, it's where you're speaking from. A high-value woman speaks to a man without rushing, without over-explaining, and without trying to manage his reactions. She's present, she's curious, she's secure. When she likes him, she lets that warmth show, but she never chases his approval. She doesn't test him with games or flood him with reassurance. Instead, she asks questions that invite him to step forward. She responds rather than reacts. And when something doesn't align with her values, she names it calmly, or she simply steps back. That's what makes her irresistible. A man feels it immediately. He's not being convinced. He's being chosen. High-value women don't try to impress a man with words because their sense of worth is already settled internally. When a woman knows who she is, she doesn't feel the urge to perform, persuade, or prove herself through constant explanation. Her communication comes from self-respect, not strategy. This is important because men are highly sensitive to the emotional position from which a woman speaks. Words spoken from insecurity carry a different weight than the same words spoken from confidence. Even compliments, questions, or affection feel different depending on whether they come from abundance or need. A high-value woman understands that attraction grows when there is space, not pressure. She doesn't rush to fill silences, clarify every thought, or soften every statement to make sure she is liked. Her calm tone signals emotional safety and inner stability. This doesn't mean she is cold or distant. It means she is comfortable being herself without monitoring how her words land every second. That comfort is magnetic because it communicates, "I trust myself." When a man feels that energy, he naturally leans in because confidence invites curiosity. Intentional speech is another key element. High-value women choose their words carefully, not to manipulate, but to stay aligned with their values. They don't overshare personal stories too early or use vulnerability as a way to bond prematurely. Instead, they let connection unfold at a natural pace. This teaches a man, without ever saying it directly, that access to her emotional world is earned through consistency and effort. That sense of earned connection increases respect and attraction at the same time. Self-respect also shows up in what a high-value woman does not say. She doesn't apologize for her preferences, minimize her needs, or laugh off behavior that makes her uncomfortable. If something doesn't sit right with her, she doesn't mask it with humor or over-kindness. She may calmly say how she feels, or she may simply observe and adjust her investment. This quiet boundary setting is powerful because it isn't dramatic or confrontational. It's grounded, and grounded communication makes a man feel that he is dealing with a woman who values herself, which raises her perceived value without her ever having to announce it. Another important aspect is emotional regulation. High-value women don't let every emotion spill into conversation unchecked. They feel deeply, but they don't let emotions control their language in reactive moments. This ability to pause before speaking creates clarity and strength in their communication. When a man sees that a woman can express herself without emotional chaos, he feels both challenged and safe. He understands that this is someone whose approval means something, because it is not given impulsively. Speaking from self-respect removes the hidden agenda. A high-value woman is not trying to steer the interaction toward a specific outcome through her words. She isn't subtly auditioning for commitment or reassurance. She is simply expressing herself honestly and allowing the man to reveal who he is through his responses. This creates a natural polarity. She is grounded in her center, and he feels invited to step forward. Attraction grows not because she is chasing it, but because she is standing firmly in her own worth. When a woman speaks from self-respect, her words carry weight even when they are simple. She doesn't need clever lines or perfect timing. Her calm, intentional communication sends a clear message. I know my value, and I'm not here to convince you of it. That message is what makes her impossible to resist. What makes high-value communication so powerful is emotional clarity. A high-value woman knows what she feels, understands why she feels it, and can express it without turning it into drama or a performance. This doesn't mean she speaks emotionally all the time. It means when she does speak, there is no confusion in her energy. Her words match her inner state. That alignment is rare and men feel it immediately. Many women believe they must soften the truth or hide their needs to avoid pushing a man away. A high-value woman does the opposite, but gently. She doesn't dump emotions or issue ultimatums. She communicates clearly and calmly, without apology for having standards. If she enjoys something, she says so without fear of seeming too much. If something bothers her, she names it without anger or accusation. This kind of emotional honesty creates trust because a man doesn't have to guess where he stands with her. The absence of fear is what separates emotional clarity from emotional intensity. A high-value woman is not speaking to get reassurance or to control the outcome. She isn't fishing for compliments or asking indirect questions to test his feelings. Instead, she states her experience as a fact, not a plea. For example, rather than hinting or withdrawing in silence, she might simply say what works for her and observe how he responds. That confidence shifts the dynamic. The man feels invited to rise rather than pressured to perform. Emotional clarity also prevents unnecessary conflict. When a woman doesn't understand her own emotions, conversations can become confusing, contradictory, or charged with hidden expectations. A high-value woman takes responsibility for her feelings before she speaks. She reflects internally first, then communicates what is actually true for her. This prevents blame and reduces emotional volatility. As a result, conversations feel cleaner, calmer, and more productive. Men are drawn to this because it creates emotional safety without boredom. Another important aspect of emotional clarity is consistency. High-value women don't say one thing and feel another, or act warm one day and distant the next to provoke a reaction. Their communication is stable. This doesn't mean predictable or boring, it means trustworthy. A man learns that when she expresses interest, it's real. When she sets a boundary, it matters. That reliability builds deep attraction because it signals emotional maturity, not emotional chaos. When a woman communicates with clarity, she also allows a man to take responsibility for his choices. She doesn't chase explanations or over-communicate to keep him engaged. She speaks once clearly and then watches behavior. This is crucial. Attraction deepens when a man feels he has agency, when he chooses to show up rather than being convinced to. Emotional clarity removes manipulation from the equation and replaces it with truth. That honesty is disarming. Emotional clarity doesn't mean emotional coldness. A high-value woman can be warm, affectionate, and expressive. The difference is that her warmth is offered freely, not as a currency. She doesn't give affection hoping it will secure commitment. She gives it because she genuinely feels it. And if the connection stops feeling aligned, she doesn't argue herself into staying. She communicates or steps back with grace. Emotional clarity is irresistible because it allows a man to feel both seen and respected. He knows where he stands, and he knows that her interest is intentional, not desperate. That combination creates a powerful pull. A man doesn't feel managed or tested, he feels chosen. And that feeling, more than any clever words, is what makes him want to stay and invest. High-value women understand that the most powerful form of communication is not talking more, but listening better. They don't dominate conversations or rush to fill every silence with stories, explanations, or opinions. Instead, they create space. This space allows a man to reveal himself naturally without feeling interrogated or judged. When a woman listens with presence rather than impatience, a man feels something rare: psychological safety. And that feeling becomes emotionally addictive. Asking thoughtful questions is not about collecting information or steering the conversation toward a desired outcome. It's about genuine curiosity. A high-value woman isn't asking questions to impress or to prove compatibility. She asks because she wants to understand how a man thinks, what he values, and how he experiences the world. Her questions are open, not leading. They invite reflection rather than defensiveness. This signals emotional intelligence, which many men find deeply attractive if they can't articulate why. Listening fully also means resisting the urge to interrupt, correct, or relate everything back to herself. High-value women don't listen with the intention to respond. They listen with the intention to understand. They allow pauses. They notice tone, body language, and emotional shifts. This kind of attention makes a man feel genuinely seen, not just heard. When someone feels seen, they unconsciously invest more because the connection feels meaningful rather than superficial. There is also restraint in how high-value women respond. They don't immediately validate everything a man says to keep the peace or win approval. If they agree, they say so honestly. If they don't rush to argue. They may ask a clarifying question or simply acknowledge his perspective without abandoning their own. This balance of openness and self-respect creates mutual respect. A man senses that he is engaging with a woman who has her own mind and values, not someone who mirrors him to be liked. Another key aspect is how listening builds emotional momentum. When a man feels understood, he naturally wants to keep talking. He leans in. He shares more. He begins to open up about things he doesn't normally discuss. This isn't because the woman is prying, but because her presence lowers his defenses. Over time, this deepens the bond in a way that surface-level flirtation never could. Emotional intimacy grows quietly, without being forced. High-value women also know when not to ask questions. They don't chase clarity when a man is being vague or inconsistent. Instead of interrogating him to get reassurance, they observe his actions. Silence becomes a filter. If a man is genuinely interested, he fills that space with effort. If he isn't, his lack of initiative provides the answer. This self-control prevents overinvestment and keeps the dynamic balanced. Listening fully also allows a high-value woman to assess compatibility realistically. Because she is not overly focused on being chosen, she is free to choose as well. She notices how a man handles disagreement, how he speaks about others, and how emotionally available he is. This information helps her decide whether to continue investing rather than trying to make the connection work at all costs. That discernment is a form of self-respect, and it subtly raises her value in the interaction. When a high-value woman listens deeply, she offers something far more powerful than charm or wit presence. In a world full of distractions and shallow exchanges, presence feels intimate. A man doesn't just enjoy talking to her, he feels different when he's with her. More grounded, more understood, and that emotional experience is what keeps him drawn in long after the conversation ends. High-value women set standards not by announcing rules, but by the way they respond to behavior. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of attraction. Many people believe standards must be clearly stated up front, enforced through conversations, warnings, or repeated explanations. A high-value woman understands something subtler and far more effective. People learn how to treat you through the consequences of their actions. Her communication reflects this understanding. Instead of demanding effort, attention, or consistency, she observes first. When a man shows up with intention, follows through, and communicates respectfully, she responds with warmth, engagement, and availability. Her energy becomes a reward. When he becomes inconsistent, dismissive, or half-present, she doesn't argue, complain, or chase clarity. She simply pulls back emotionally, not in a dramatic way, and not as punishment, but as alignment. Her response matches the level of effort she receives. This is powerful because it removes negotiation from attraction. She isn't trying to convince a man to value her. She's allowing his behavior to reveal whether he already does. This shifts the dynamic completely. A man begins to realize that access to her time, attention, and emotional openness is not automatic. It's responsive. That realization often sparks effort, not because she demanded it, but because he felt the shift. Subtle standard setting also preserves dignity. High-value women don't lecture or explain why certain behavior is unacceptable unless it truly warrants a conversation. They understand that over-explaining can dilute boundaries. When standards are communicated calmly and briefly, or sometimes not verbally at all, they carry more weight. Silence, distance, or reduced availability can communicate misalignment more clearly than long discussions filled with emotion. Another important element is consistency. A high-value woman doesn't reward behavior she doesn't want, even if she likes the man. She doesn't accept last-minute plans repeatedly and then later express frustration. She doesn't respond enthusiastically to inconsistency and hope it improves. Her responses are aligned in real time. This teaches a man that her standards are not flexible based on mood or attraction. They are part of who she is. This approach also filters out the wrong people quickly. Men who are unwilling or unable to meet her standards naturally drift away when they realize they cannot access her energy without effort. She doesn't have to reject them explicitly. The dynamic resolves itself. Men who are emotionally available and intentional, on the other hand, step up. They feel challenged in a healthy way. They sense that this woman is different, not demanding, but discerning. Subtle standard setting is not about control or manipulation. It's not silent treatment, mind games, or withdrawal designed to provoke anxiety. The difference lies in intention. A high-value woman pulls back not to punish, but to protect her own emotional well-being. She remains calm, kind, and self-respecting throughout. Her emotional state doesn't depend on whether a man corrects his behavior. That independence is what makes her response effective. Over time, this creates a relationship dynamic based on mutual respect rather than negotiation. A man learns that effort, presence, and consistency are met with closeness and warmth. Disinterest or inconsistency are met with space. This clarity feels fair and grounded. It allows attraction to deepen without resentment, power struggles, or emotional exhaustion. High-value women don't chase standards with words. They embody them through action. Their communication teaches rather than tells. And that quiet strength is what makes their presence unforgettable. At the heart of it all, being a high-value woman is not about saying the perfect words or following a script that guarantees attraction. It's about the energy behind your communication. When you speak from self-respect, emotional clarity, and presence, your words naturally carry weight. You don't chase connection, you allow it to reveal itself. By listening deeply, expressing yourself honestly, and responding to behavior rather than chasing explanations, you create a dynamic where attraction grows effortlessly. A man doesn't feel pressured, tested, or managed. He feels respected, seen, and invited to step forward. This is what makes you irresistible. Not performance, not persuasion, but calm confidence. When you communicate this way, you stop trying to be chosen, and instead, you become the woman whose presence makes a man want to choose her.